Okay, so I've got my bolster and my blanket across the mat because sometimes I just quite like lie in this kind of I need to put you onto mute. I'll do that in just a sec. Um, so yeah, I like to start off in this position. But if you don't have a bolster or you don't want to use one, just lay on your back. Okay. And the other option is to maybe just roll a blanket up and to put the blanket underneath your upper back or supporting your spine, so along the back of your spine, and that's a really nice option. So I want you to do, for me, this is my kind of go-to. If I'm feeling quite, if I've had a long day, if I've been sitting a long time, then this is just my go-to position. I'm often found having a time out lying like this, and I might lie with my knees bent, I might just lie with my legs straight, and I'd invite you to explore your own position. Sometimes lying with the legs in a crossed position, like you're sitting cross-legged, is nice. Sometimes soles of the feet together in a butterfly. I'm not always ready for that right at the very start of my practice session, so sometimes just something a little bit softer is quite nice. And here we are lying, if you've got something underneath the back of your body, then it's just mildly supporting and stimulating the kidney region on your back body. However, the position is not important. What is important is that you're lying down and that you're really comfortable and that you can allow your body to relax. And hopefully your day has been very relaxing, very, very pleasant. You had the typical Sunday, and now you're bringing it to a close. And there is lots of closures happening today in reality, isn't there? There's lots of, we're at the end of the week, we're at the end of the weekend, the end of the month, okay? The end of spring. So lots of endings, lots of things that we might be saying goodbye to. And it might be that you are saying goodbye to something, as in, you're about to move back into maybe your job, maybe you've been, asked to go back to work, maybe different expectations are heading your way. Who knows? But I always like to think about endings leading to new beginnings. So I want you to think for tonight's practice about what is on your horizon. What new beginning or start or opportunity is coming your way. Maybe it's coming your way fairly quickly, or maybe it's there, it's quite far off on that horizon. But we need to prepare for it, maybe. Maybe we're preparing for something that's going to be happening in a month or two's time. And to give us a little bit of focus for tonight's practice, I'm going to share with you a lovely poem by John O'Donoghue. He was an Irish priest, and I use his poems quite a lot in my teaching, in my classes. And this one's called For Equilibrium. I'm going to share it with you now so that it becomes a little bit of a focus for your practice tonight. And then we'll share it again at the end, so you can use it maybe to take away with you. And if you'd like a copy of the poem, just let me know and I'll email it to you. And this is called For Equilibrium. Like the joy of the sea coming home to shore, may the relief of laughter rinse through your soul. As the wind loves to call things to dance, may your gravity be lightened by grace. Like the dignity of moonlight restoring the earth, may your thoughts incline with reverence and respect. as water takes whatever shape it is in. So free may you be about who you become. As silence smiles on the other side of what's said, may your sense of irony bring perspective. As time remains free of all that it frames, may your mind stay clear of all that it names. May your prayer of listening deepen enough to hear in the depths the laughter of God. Taking a big breath in now and releasing your breath as though you are sighing and letting go. Keep breathing deeply. Keep letting go of any tension or tightness within your physical self. Or let go of any thoughts, any feelings, any memories that may have been stored in your body that you could really do with saying goodbye to. Think about your tummy remaining soft as you breathe in. And visualize your diaphragm moving, rising and falling as the breaths move out and in. And again, as we say goodbye to things, what is it that's on your horizon? Right. Okay, so I'd like you to think about, we're going to think about moving. So if your legs are straight, maybe bend the knees or bring the knees back together. And just roll to one side, please, so that you can come up to sit. And we're going to transfer ourselves into butterfly pose, into the classic. So what I would suggest that you do is maybe sit on something. Maybe it's your blanket folded up a few times. Maybe it's a yoga block, and that you've got that little bit of elevation that you can just walk your sit bones back slightly and nestle them into the support that's underneath. And then bringing the soles of your feet together. And I know we did this on Thursday. We started with the feet fairly far away, which you're very, very welcome to do. But if you want to bring the feet closer in, you be your own best judge. And you could stay upright if you wanted to. You could even put your hands on the floor behind you and just stay in this lovely open position. The target area here is the inner thighs and the groin. So we're trying to put space and an openness here. And this is how we move forwards in life. We move forwards by keeping the front body very open and kind of ready to receive whatever is coming our way. However, we also have a little bit of compression, okay? So think about where the compression is, maybe where the restriction is that's stopping your knees from coming out wide. You might find that you want to fold forwards, and if that's the case for you, please take it. You might change where your legs are in space. You could, if you've got a support, you know the score, you could have it on its end and you could rest your forehead onto it for a little bit of quietness for your mind. And it might be that that's what you're looking for tonight, a little bit of an opportunity to switch off. It might be that your support is right down low and you can roll forwards onto it, okay? Good. So you come into whatever variation of this that you enjoy doing, whether it's a leaning back into the hands or whether it's a folding forwards or just staying upright. I really don't mind. Remember, Lauren, about the 3-minute thing. Okay, if we get that in our brains straight away, then that's a good place to start. Don't hold the poses for any longer than 3 minutes. And this should be quite nice because this is creating a lot of space in the groin and in the hips. So for you, Lauren, it's going to be a good thing, okay? All right. It might be that you rest your elbows down onto something and then you could bend your elbows and bring your chin into your hands. This is advice for everybody. All right, so a little bit of softness here. And I quite like beginning with this as a forward fold for me, for myself, because it gives me a chance to breathe. And when I'm focusing on the breath, I'm trying really hard to stay attentive to it, even though my mind is super, super busy all of the time and I'm always distracted by thoughts, and it's a real challenge to quieten the mind and to keep all of those distractions out. So for me, visualization really works, and I like to visualize the breath moving down the back of my spine as I breathe in, and then up the back of my spine as I breathe out. And this is a very yin way of breathing. Because often when we think about inhalation, inhalation is in a sense an upward moving of energy. So prana is upward and apana is downward. So the exhale is a downward moving of energy as we feel more grounded and more connected to the earth. That happens with every breath that we take, whether we're aware of it or not. But when we breathe and our attention moves in the opposite way, so as I breathe in, my awareness is going down my body, and then as I breathe out, my awareness is moving back up, then I'm reversing that flow. And so it becomes a very yin way to breathe. Not that I'm looking to play necessarily with opposites, but yin in its very essence is the opposite of our more yang, more active practices. So think of tonight's class as being a kind of a slow meditation on stillness and contemplation, and a sense of you just connecting in with yourself. And maybe what's on your horizon is a really like a personal goal. Maybe it's a real personal, private thing that you haven't really shared with anybody. Maybe it's an intention that you would like to achieve something, or there's something you would like to get done in your life. Big or small, it really doesn't matter. But think about it and make it your own. Own it in a sense by acknowledging it. Very occasionally, in these sorts of quieter practices, this is where we get our inspiration, where our ideas come, because we give ourselves the chance for stillness. And within the stillness, possibility arises. Okay, so you're going to take just a couple more breaths here. And then as you inhale, slowly lift yourself up or sit yourself back up. And you can use your hands to support you as you gently bring the knees back together and slide the legs away. And then if it's okay, lay down. If you'd rather stay sitting up, please do. Just bring yourself into a comfortable neutral position so then you can feel the rebound. And for me, often there's heat after I come out of a butterfly, and around the inner thighs, the inner groin. It seems to be very hot. And I enjoy that sensation of the heat spreading. In contrast, think about the areas that we're experiencing the compression and how do they feel? Because compression is not a bad thing, okay? Compression is a positive thing, so it's still putting forces through areas of our body which is going to stimulate them. When we stimulate areas of the body, cell renewal happens, which is never a bad thing. All right, so we're going to come back up to sit. So safely come up, bending the knees, rolling to one side, hand to support and coming round and up to sit. And then you're going to turn to sit sideways because we're going to come into straddle. I've left my bolster in front. Again, this is one that you don't have to use anything for if you don't want to. I am sitting on something, so I've got a blanket underneath me and I've turned to the side so that I can have my heels on the mat, because I definitely don't want my heels onto a hard surface. If you need to bend your knees, maybe you want to put something underneath them, maybe that will help. I quite like to put my fingertips on the floor behind my legs, and I'd like to lift my hips up and take them back slightly to encourage the tilt forwards of the pelvis. And I know I talked to you, those that come to class regularly will remember me saying this, but this is one of those poses that for me, that some days it's like chalk and cheese, okay? And this is one of those chalk moments, I guess, where this is about where it's going to be today. The inner thighs feel quite tight with this particular position. And so I don't feel I'm going to get very close to the floor. So I'm going to put something underneath my elbows, just so that I can be quiet. I'm not straining my body down towards the floor. I might even bend my elbows and rest my chin in my hands, or your palms on your forehead over your eyes even is quite nice. Just again, shutting off the world and dropping into my internal awareness and space. Okay, so only take your legs as wide apart as you feel. And if you want to stay upright, that's if you are in this kind of mildly juicy place with the inner thigh stretch, maybe you've got a little bit of compression here at the ASIS, this is the bony part at the front of the hips, that might be enough. If you want deeper, you go forwards, okay? And it doesn't matter whether the legs roll out or roll in, it doesn't matter whether the legs are dead straight, but just being quiet. And for me tonight, my breath is going to be into the inner thighs. I'm going to be visualizing my breath filling up that space. And as I breathe out, I'm visualizing that I'm tilting forwards just a little bit further. There might not be any actual movement happening, but I'm thinking about it in my mind. I'm imagining that it's happening. And it might not happen today, it might be the next time that I practice and get a little bit closer or feel a little bit more ease in the pose, in the position. We're only going to stay for one more minute down the centre. And I've come to the centre first of all because there is always the option of staying here. And if you want to stay in forward folding through the centre, you can. We're going to do 2 minutes down each leg as an alternative pose. So those that want to stay here can stay here if they wish, or those that want to come with me can come with me. So I'm going to be quiet now. I'm going to let you stay here for another few breaths.
And then if you want to, you can stay as you are. If you're happy here and you want to stay here for another 4 minutes, then you're welcome to. If you're coming with me, you're going to inhale up. Doesn't matter which leg you're going to turn towards, but you're going to turn so that the hands are maybe either side of it. Now, Lauren, you might want to be a little bit more careful about how deeply you twist, or if you're going to shut the space off on the front of your abdomen. Some of you might want to put support like blocks or a cushion. I'll put my bolster here so you can see. Now you could rest over or put this over the thigh even, so that you're folding over it. So you're basically just folding towards one leg. So make sure that you're really comfortable here. The target areas change slightly. So now you might have a hamstring stretch down this leg that you're folding towards. You might have more of a stretch happening in the sides of the waist and maybe the back of the hip. Maybe still a stretch on the inside of the thigh, but ultimately it doesn't matter where you're feeling it, as long as perhaps you are feeling something somewhere and you're not going in so deep or so hard that you're either overstretching or overworking the area. You'll be able to tell that on how relaxed you feel, how easy is your breath coming and going. So yeah, create challenge, but think about tonight's practice along the lines of mildly juicy. All right, so there's work, there's effort going on, there's definitely juice happening, but not so that it's taking your breath away. 1 more minute here. Again, think about the compression. Where are you taking space away? Where are you bringing parts of your body closer together? What does that feel like in there? Contrasting with the sensation of stretch and length in other areas. Okay. The last 2 breaths. And then if you can, you're coming up on an inhalation, slowly walking the hands in and straight over onto the other side, please. So turning to face the other leg. If you need to do any movement in between, you're welcome to. And then slowly easing yourself. And be mindful of the fact that there's 2 sides of your body will not feel the same necessarily. See if you can ease yourself down gently, without force, able to breathe. Okay, so last 2 breaths. Then you can ease yourself back up. Good. And when you come back, just give the inner thighs a little bit of a rub. They should feel okay after moving to the sides. If you were in the center throughout, then just give them an extra rub, and well done. And then easing the legs back together and having a lie down, and this will really allow you that opportunity for lovely rebound sensations. Letting the back rest as well, especially if you find the forward folding aspect of it creates a little bit of stretch, maybe of tension down across the back of the hips and the lower back. Let the back body, let the pelvis sink into the floors. So it's a really welcome relief just to be in this passive, easy position. I wonder what your legs feel like now. Are they feeling longer or heavy, or is there a warmth that spreads, stimulating the movement of energy being awakened within your body? All right, so let's bend the knees. Place the feet on the mat and rock the knees from side to side. Just gentle rocks, nothing too strong. Okay. And then coming all the way up. Lovely. Okay. So we're going to come into either swan pose, so coming into sleeping swan, so that's the forward fold variation, or you can come into deer pose, and they're pretty similar. Deer pose looks like this. So we've done this position where we had right angles to the front leg, right angles to the back leg, and then we folded down. So this is a modified swan. But a deer position, it starts off, it's as though you were sitting in a cross-legged position, but this leg comes up and the foot the heel comes quite close to the sit bone. And so you've got that, you can change where this knee points and how far this leg goes back. So you're getting a bit of a stretch here on the front of the hip. So this is option number one. This is deer pose. It's not so great if you don't like the top of, so if I turn around to the side so you can see a little bit more, it's not so great if you don't like the top of your foot being pressed on the floor, or if you have any issues with bunions. So it might be that you want to leave this one out if that applies to you, because swan is just a slightly different variation on this, in that the front leg is going to stay near the top of the mat, and the back leg is either going to come out, so you could be on the inside edge of the leg, or you could lift your hips off of the floor and have the leg straight with the top of the foot on the floor. And we're going to come down into this position. So this is your swan or pigeon pose, for those of you familiar with it, with its normal yoga definition or yoga term. Those that are in deer and are happy here, you too can face towards the leg, towards the knee, and maybe just come down towards it and see how that feels. Okay. And the further you walk your hands around to the side, the more of a stretch you're going to get around the hip. Okay. So loads of things to play around with, but I want you to feel as though you can explore the one that works best for you. And it might be, if you're not familiar with deer pose, if it's a new one or it makes your foot feel uncomfortable, but you are more familiar with pigeon, then stick with the pigeon. Those of you that are in pigeon pose, and pigeon pose is a great one to practice prenatally, so it's really good for the sacroiliac region, and often it can relieve kind of a lot of tension across the back of the hips and the low back. It's a great stretch of the piriformis as well. So this is whilst it might feel uncomfortable if you have sciatic pain, it can sometimes aggravate sciatica, but it's a very good reliever for sciatic problems. So if you're in the pose and it's aggravating your sciatica, come out, modify it. But if you are a sciatic sufferer and you're in the pose and it feels good, then go with it, because you might find that it helps to relieve some of your symptoms. You don't have to come all the way down to the ground. You can be propped up on your hands, on your forearms, wherever you feel comfortable. You could also put something underneath the hip if you're of the bent leg, if you're in swan. All right. And this is a fab pose because it stimulates all the energy lines, all the Chinese, the acupuncture, the meridian lines of the lower legs. There's 6 meridians that run along up and down the legs, and swan pose and deer stimulate all 6 of them. We're going to think about releasing. Now, if you're sitting in this into deer, then you're going to release your legs and come into windshield wipers and rock the knees from side to side as you enjoy your rebound. Those that are in swan can also do the same, or you're very welcome to come into a downward dog and pedal the heels. So whatever feels most appropriate for releasing areas of the body for yourself. Nice. Okay, good job everybody. So let's do the other side. So you can either stay facing the same way, or you can turn around if you need to still face the camera. But obviously, whatever you did on the first side, please practice the same pose on the other side. And yeah, get yourself nice and comfy. Okay, so again, target areas here are the outer hip and maybe the thigh of what I would call the front leg. And then you might have stretch or stimulation happening on what I would call the back leg. Think too about where is being compressed in your body. Often the same places come to mind. And so that's why it's important that we're aware of the areas that we are creating compression into, so that we can treat them in the opposite way. We can put the stretch or the space back in. So it's not always about compression. So concentrate on your breathing. And for this side, we'll think about doing some ratio breaths, okay? So I'd like you to breathe in for 5. And I'd like you then to breathe out for up to 10. So it could be that you work your way up to 10. You could start by breathing out for 7, and then the next exhalation, breathe out for 8, for instance. and working towards doubling the length of the inhalation. And see whether this type of breathing helps to keep the mind focused or keep you within the pose and stop you from wandering off. Also, with these big juicy hip poses, we can bring to mind our focus for the class. And it might be that your focus was just to relax, to unwind, to be present. And this breathing, this type of breathing allows for that, in my opinion. I'm going to stay for about 30 more seconds, so taking maybe 3 or 4 more breaths, please. Okay. And then I'd like you to gently ease your way out, doing what you need to do to experience your rebound. Pedaling out if you're coming into downward dog. Okay. And then just popping maybe your knees down or coming onto all fours and then coming down into child's pose. And it might be that your child's pose has your knees apart. Whatever feels good, whatever feels best for your hips or allows you to be comfortable in the position. If you want to support your head with your hands or with a cushion or something, then that's fine. All right. Okay, so we've created so far quite a lot of compression around the front of the hips. So now we're going to invite some space and some length into there. And we're going to take a back bend. We're going to come into Sphinx pose and then maybe up into seal. So choose your position that you feel that you want to come into and have your props to hand. I always have a block nearby for Sphinx, which is laying on the forearms like this. And when I feel like I want to go a bit deeper, maybe I'll put something to elevate my upper body a little bit higher to make the back bend a little bit deeper. Those of you that need to might find that a blanket across well, underneath the hips can be quite nice here. So if you're finding that it's uncomfortable to have the front of the hips onto the floor, then please explore that. Lauren, you might want to have a blanket or a cushion or a bolster or something like that underneath the front of the thighs, so that you can still be in the pose but with a little bit of height to the front of the thighs, so that you've got space for babies. Okay, and we're going to relax into this position. Make sure please that your elbows are roughly underneath your shoulders. That's the most supportive position for them. Letting your body weight drop into the elbows. If you want to make your back bend less intense, you can move the elbows further in front of you. Okay, even if it all gets a bit too much, just laying on your front, maybe with your forehead supported, is a very fine alternative if you feel that you don't need a lot of stimulation into your lower back this evening. All right, good. Lots of nice, lovely Sphinx poses. Well done, everyone. Now then, encourage. So think about when you're in this pose, you don't want to have your head either looking too high up or straining. Maybe think about keeping the back of the neck long, and so your gaze is more sort of diagonally down towards the ground. You can, of course, bring your chin towards your chest if you would like to put space into the back of, or length into the back of the neck muscles. Some of you might want to strengthen the muscles on the front of the throat, so you might want to just kind of bring the chin into the face a little bit, and this will help the deep neck flexors. But unfortunately, they're not quite strong enough often, because we're too much in a slackened position where we've just got our head folding forwards when we're driving or typing or texting, that sort of thing. Okay, so a little bit of the chin moving into the face, as we do when we're doing Tadasana, when we're standing up, and I often ask you to move your chin in. It's for that reason. It's just to engage these muscles here, and for you to keep your head balanced more within the line of the spine. All right. This pose has echoes from the beginning of the practice, where we opened up the front of the body, and we want to maintain that sense of openness here. So please try to keep the collarbones wide, the chest open, in that willing to receive, that openness at the front of the body, which is really vital for when we're moving forwards in our world. Okay, so those that are happy into Sphinx, stay here. If you want to deepen the pose, you could elevate the forearms. Or for those that would like more of a compression into the lower back, but also more stretch or length into the front body, you could take your hands wider than your mat, turning your fingers out to the side, so you've got external rotation for the upper arms, and coming up into a straight arm position, into seal. Okay, so feel free to play with if the hands want to be further forwards or closer in, and just see what that feels like. For some, this might be too deep a stretch on the front of the abdomen. I'd probably leave it out, Lauren, if that's if you're thinking about it. Good. I like people using the chat button. That's what it's there for. Well done. Okay, so yeah, so big stimulation here for the lower back, and so particularly we're thinking about the kidney energy lines, the bladder, the stomach. Stomach meridian is on the front of the body, by the way. So we're putting in space on the front body. We are compressing the lower back, and this is great. This is great for the lumbar vertebra as well, keeping them nice and strong and healthy. So this kind of deep back bends, very good for the health of the bones. All right, we're going to take maybe 1 more minute here. So if you want to come down sooner, just come to lay on your front. And then when you're ready to, you're going to slowly take maybe any props away, ease yourself down gently, and let your head rest. Maybe move your hips from side to side a little to release any tension in the lower back. Let the head rest, the shoulders relax, and enjoy the rebound. All right. So let's support ourselves as we lift back up. And we're going to come into a wide knee child's pose again, which you can do prop free, or you could have the bolster in front of you. And this is just to create a little bit of mild flexion for the hips and release to the spine. We might transition this into a tadpole, so we might go wider with the knees. So therefore, if you want to be sideways on, so you can start your wide knee child with a fairly conventional wide knee position. I've got my big toes together, I'm sitting onto my heels, but by all means, if you want to sit on blankets or blocks, you're very welcome to. I've got my bolster in front of me. I don't have to have anything there, but it's just quite nice to have something to rest my body down onto. Maybe the head turns out to the side. So then I can be soft with my spine, completely relaxed in the shoulders and the arms, and all my attention can go into this open space around the hips. The inner thigh is working a little bit here as well. All right, so either if you want to come all the way down to the ground, you can. It's going to create a different sensation maybe for your hips or even for your spine. So if you want more work into your thoracic area, you could treat this as a little bit of a heart opener. Excuse me, albeit a forward fold. Every time you breathe out, feel your hips sinking a little bit lower, your tailbone dropping a little bit closer towards the earth. If you have your head turned to one side, perhaps turn it the other direction. Okay, so you have an option. You could stay exactly as you are for a little bit longer. If you want to come a bit wider with the knees, you may take that adjustment now if you wish to. That might mean that you're a little bit more propped up. You don't have to come all the way down if you feel that it's too strong because of the distance between the knees. If you want to come into a full frog, you can take the feet. I don't hope you can see that I've taken my legs out to the side. I'm keeping the bolster in front of me so I can put my elbows onto it, but I'm concentrating on moving my hips backwards, okay? And so I've got that nice deep opening around the hips, around, it feels like really into the ball and socket of the hip joint. So have a play around with that. If you've had enough, however, of being on your knees and you would rather have an alternative position to be in, then you may come onto your back. You might like to put something underneath your head for a little bit of support, and you could come into a happy baby position, which is the knees really wide apart, soles of the feet looking at the ceiling and holding onto the outside edges of the feet. So essentially, very similar pose, but just without the same emphasis being on the knees. And happy baby pose is one of the few poses in yoga where there is like a pulling action, because most yoga poses, the strength from the arms comes from pushing. So yeah, so there's only a couple, really is only a couple. So you can really explore, even though this is very yang-like movement, you can really explore if you hold onto your feet and actively use your arm strength to draw your knees downwards. And how that feels. Notice the compression again. So it's this compression here at the front of the hips. What does that feel like this evening? Okay. Good job, everyone. So if you would like to gently think about calming out, especially if you've had your knees super wide or you've been in frog pose, just be really gentle as you ease yourself out. One of the best feelings. I love it. It's what we come for. If you've been in happy baby pose, maybe just bring the knees together, hug the knees in towards your chest. You could hold on to each kneecap and do some circles with the knees. Those that were in your wide knee child's pose, maybe come down onto your back and slide the feet away from you and enjoy. All right, and this goes for everybody. Just come into a rebound position of your choice. Maybe you feel that you wish to do a bit of moving, a bit of maybe you want to roll, so rotate your ankles, drawing circles with the toes. Maybe you'd like to wave your knees from side to side, whatever feels appropriate for you. Okay, so we're going to take the remainder of our practice this evening lying down. So if you're starting to feel a little bit chilly, if your body temperature's dropped, which is really normal when we practice yin, and obviously it's getting a bit cooler in the evening, so put extra layers on or have a blanket to hand for the final pose in a moment. I'm going to take a lying twist, and as ever, there's always lots and lots of options to take. So you can, so option one is to do this completely prop free, without support underneath your head, of course. So never have your head supported when you're in a lying twist. Always make sure there's plenty of space for your head to move freely from side to side. Option number one is for the feet to stay on the floor and for you simply to rock your knees to the side. You could take option two, which is to pick the feet up off the floor and to roll the knees over to the side. And you can put stuff underneath the knees or in between the knees if you need some extra support. But the idea is that you can come down into this and be very, very relaxed. Option number three is kind of a continuation on what we did the other night, on Thursday night. Now you could take a bit of support underneath your hips, and some of you will like this, some of you might not so much. So experiment with it, and if it's not for you, go back to just lying down flat on the floor. So if you've got a bolster or some kind of support, you're still into your knees coming in, your feet are going to be off the floor, but you're going to roll your knees across to one side and they are going to come down to the floor. So support yourself, but notice that the knees come down, but the hips stay up. Now I've got my free hand and I'm holding onto the bolster and I need to adjust my bottom shoulder so that it stays comfortable. And I want you to play, it's not everybody's cup of tea because it's a little bit weird. There's quite a lot of your body weight going into your shoulder. So if you've got a shoulder injury or a weakness there, then it might not be the pose that you want to play around with tonight. So have a play with it. See what it feels like. You might try it and think, yeah, why haven't I done this before? I love it, it's fab. However, whatever twist you choose, please encourage your legs to relax and your feet to come down to the floor, your ankles to relax. So you're not kind of holding your legs suspended in the air. Of course, if you want to, if your knees are up close to the height of your heart, so if you kind of curled them in quite closely, if you want to straighten your legs and have your arm out to the side at shoulder height and take your legs out to where the hand is, please enjoy that as an alternative as well. Give you a little bit more of a hamstring stretch. Good. So we're on our homeward bound path now. So thinking back to start of the class, and we reflected a little bit on endings and what we're saying goodbye to. So we're saying goodbye to spring for another year, another cycle of spring is ending. I know it's been summer for ages, but for my 7-year-old daughter, it is still very much definitely spring today, and tomorrow is very definitely summer, because that's just the way it is. And it was just interesting. We've had a lot of conversation about that today. And it made me think about, that these kind of phases, these seasons that we pass through, they give us so much structure, don't they? They give us something that's very reliable, that we feel safe within, and we can then say goodbye after a period of time to something we have enjoyed, but now it's time to let it go and to move on to the next stage. And so I wonder whether that's at all relevant for you and the journey that you are on. So another few breaths here on this side. And then thinking about coming back to the center. Lovely. If you want to pause in the middle, hug the knees in, rock your body side to side a little as you realign on your mat. And then when you wish, when you're ready, coming over to the other side to repeat the pose. Take your time. Good dog. And for me, there's something very cathartic about twists in general, and this ability to wring the spine out, wring the body out. So maybe explore where you are experiencing space and release, and contrast that with where there is compression or lack of space, restriction within your movement. What's stopping you from going deeper? Maybe you can feel a little bit of restriction in your spine somewhere, where there is a little bit of tightness you've been carrying around. Can that tightness be relieved through active breath? Or perhaps it needs a bit of permission to let go. Can you use the exhalation to become soft? Perhaps there's an emotional link to whatever it is that you're holding on into your body. Maybe that emotional link can be identified, maybe it can't, it doesn't matter. But to be aware that we do hold these emotions within our bodies. We are our emotions. and we invite the softness in. And if any emotion does creep up into your awareness, all you need to do is to label it and then to let it go. Okay, so maybe another 5 more breaths here. Keep letting it go on the exhalation. Releasing, relaxing the whole body. Okay. So taking your time to unwind and return yourself back to a central place, and maybe taking away props, maybe adding them if you need them. You might like to bring the knees to the chest one last time. Thinking about returning the body to a symmetrical and balanced place. As you then slide your heels away from you down to the corners of your mat. And if you wish to put something underneath the back of your knees to support you, please take that. Otherwise, just settle yourself down. We aren't going to be in Shavasana for too long. So I'm conscious, as always, that the last thing I want you to do is rest completely and fall asleep. So if that's the case, if you think you might nod off, then stay seated with me. But otherwise, just if you're lying down, stay very quietly alert, concentrating on the rise and fall of your breath and of your body lying very peacefully, quite still, in that lovely place where there is nothing else that you need to do other than rest, total rest, complete relaxation, softness everywhere, your jaw soft, muscles of the face relaxing, the expression on your face sliding off. The back of your body sunk into the mat as you release the full weight of your body and allow the earth to gently hold you. One more time for your quiet contemplation in Shavasana. This is for equilibrium. Like the joy of the sea coming home to shore, may the relief of laughter rinse through your soul. As the wind loves to call things to dance, may your gravity be lightened by grace. Like the dignity of moonlight restoring the earth, may your thoughts incline with reverence and respect. As water takes whatever shape it is in, so free may you be about who you become. As silence smiles on the other side of what's said, may your sense of irony bring perspective. As time remains free of all that it frames, may your mind stay clear of all it names. May your prayer of listening deepen enough to hear in the depths the laughter of God.
Okay, my loves, well done. Time to come back from wherever it is you have been, back into the room you were in, and back into this moment. Begin to invite movement, maybe to your toes and your fingers, maybe your wrists and your ankles. Think about stretching out or moving in a way that feels good, slowly inviting it back in. And you can then bend your knees and roll yourself over to one side. Returning to a seated position, well done. Oh, it's just like a little hug, isn't it? I love a bit of a yin practice of an evening. So it's like a little gentle held space where you can just feel that you've done something, not loads, you're not overexerted yourself, but just something, very pleasant sensations all round. Okay, so coming up to sit, sitting comfortably any way that feels good for you. Taking your hands down by your sides, breathing the arms all of the way up above your head, and then gently exhaling and bringing them down to your heart. Closing your eyes and relaxing your shoulders and letting your jaw hang softly. I'd like you to think back about whatever things are coming to a close, whatever horizons lie out there in store for you. What's on that distant horizon that you're looking forward to or working toward, that you have some anticipation for? And just treat it like the changing seasons. As something ends, a new possibility begins. On an inhalation, when it comes, breathing in. And as you exhale, bowing forwards to bring your practice to a close. Namaste to you all. And have a very lovely rest of the evening and indeed the week to come. Good.